Hello and welcome to BBC News, broadcasting to our viewers on public television in the US and around the globe. I'm Adnan Nawaz. Our top stories. Malaysia Airlines says it's lost contact with a Boeing 777 with 239 people on board, which was flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. In other news, with Russia consolidating its control over Crimea, we have a special report from the new frontier with the rest of Ukraine. The trial of Oscar Pistorius. Here's how he took guns on dates with women and once fired from a moving car. And the protests are growing in Venezuela. It's the worst political violence in the country for a decade. Hello there, welcome once again. It is 0200 GMT and we'll begin with our breaking news story. It's a developing one because it was at about 20 past midnight GMT that Malaysia Airlines made their first public indication that they, air traffic control, had lost contact with a flight carrying 239 people, which was bound for Beijing after leaving Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur. Malaysian Airlines says in a statement that flight MH370 disappeared at 1840 GMT on Friday. That is 2:40 a.m. local time. The plane is a Boeing 777-200. It took off from Kuala Lumpur, the Malaysian capital. It had been due to arrive in the Chinese capital, Beijing, at 22:30 GMT on Friday, 6:30 a.m. local time. 227 on board are passengers, including 2 infants. The other 12 are all crew members, and the airline says Malaysia Airlines currently working with the authorities who have activated their search and rescue teams to try to locate the aircraft. There is also some news coming in from China's Xinhua news agency, which reports that radar contact with the aircraft was lost in airspace, which is controlled by Vietnam, and that the plane never made contact with air traffic controllers of China, and that it indeed didn't enter Chinese airspace at any time. I just want to bring you a telephone number that international people who may be concerned about anyone they may know who could have been on board MH370 should be calling. Here it is. It's +603, which is the international dialing code, and then 7884 1234. +603 and then 7884 1234. Let's speak to Jennifer Park, the BBC's correspondent in Kuala Lumpur, joins us on the phone now. Jennifer, I believe there's been a statement from the Chief Executive Officer of the Malaysian Airlines Group.
Yes, indeed. The head of Malaysian Airlines, Ahmad Johari Yahya, had issued a statement saying that they deeply regret that they have lost contact with the flight MH370 and that they are doing everything to assist the family members. They are currently calling the next of kin of passengers and crew. The focus for the airline, according to the CEO, is that they're going to work with emergency responders and authorities to mobilize their efforts. He also adds that our thoughts and prayers are with all affected passengers and crew and their family members, and they have promised to provide regular updates on the situation. We are expecting them to be holding a press conference at some time to speak to the media and to address pressing questions that people have on just what happened to this flight MH370.
Why don't we have any more information? I find it hard to believe that Vietnam hasn't made a statement. If Xinhua is to believe that the plane lost contact over airspace controlled by Vietnam, it's some hours now, and yet the information is so scarce.
Indeed, and you can even see online that people are still circulating the same information, which is quite old. I suppose the hesitancy of giving more information is they're not sure or perhaps don't want to be misquoted. Asian officials are always very cautious about this. But at the same time, air travel is a big business in this region. It's booming. Many airlines have decided to cut back on routes to Europe, America, to focus back on travel in Asia. This particular route, KL, Kuala Lumpur to Beijing is a very popular one that's not only being flown by Malaysian Airlines, but also by discount airlines as well. So airline authorities, of course, as well as airline operators, they're going to be very cautious when they're issuing out statements. At this point in time, the CEO has given his apologies and saying that they deeply regret that they did lose contact with this flight, which was just 2 hours in to their flight to Beijing.
Jennifer, is this a very popular international route? Would it be fair to suppose that there could be people of all nationalities on board this plane, not just Malaysians, not just Chinese?
Indeed, Malaysia is becoming a hub for air travel thanks to discount airlines like AirAsia. And as I mentioned, they're very aggressive about getting people to travel. And in fact, Southeast Asian countries have been working very closely with each other to make sure that they continue their travel, not just to one destination country, but also to continue on to other countries. For example, Singapore and Malaysia have worked very closely to get travelers going from Singapore, coming up to the southern part of Malaysia, moving up to Kuala Lumpur. So it is fair to assume that there are passengers from all over the world. People are very savvy now when they're traveling. Southeast Asians are becoming richer, and they are willing to spend on air travel and to go travel further from their hometown.
Jennifer, could you give us a bit more information if you know this? Subang Air Traffic Control has reported that it lost contact with the plane. There are a few Subangs in that part of Asia. Which Subang would this be? Are we to suppose that it's the Subang that is in Malaysia, that it was still Malaysian air traffic that was the last to speak to the pilots of the plane?
Yes, that is the assumption, that this is the Subang Air Traffic Control in Malaysia. It was only 2 hours into the flight. This flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing was supposed to take 6 hours, so a third of the way in, they lost contact with the flight.
Okay, Jennifer Park in Kuala Lumpur. For the moment, thank you very much indeed, Jennifer. It's MH370 Malaysian Airlines flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, which has lost contact with all air traffic control and disappeared off the radar. And of course, as soon as we have any more information, we will bring it to you here on BBC News.